When we try to avoid thinking about a pink elephant, it often doesn't produce the desired result. Because when the idea of a pink elephant appears in the mind, we can't easily dismiss it simply by not thinking about it. In fact, attempting to suppress it may make this idea even stronger and more enduring. This highlights the difficulty in dealing with intrusive thoughts by forcefully expelling them from the mind. We can understand this example as a metaphor for how we deal with dissatisfaction in life. The pink elephant symbolizes our overall dissatisfaction, manifested through negative emotions such as sadness, stress, anger, or boredom. Notably, efforts to reduce dissatisfaction often only make us feel more dissatisfied. So, could the excessive focus on avoiding dissatisfaction, craving happiness, and contentment be the very cause of our increasing dissatisfaction? Here, we encounter a notable contradiction with the power of will, which philosopher Alan Watts called the backwards law, where our efforts result in the opposite of what we expect, leading to disappointment. The backwards law suggests that when we exert all our effort to pursue a goal, we often achieve results opposite to what we desire and feel disappointed. Simply put, the more we strive, the less successful we are. Conversely, when we stop trying, we often achieve what we desire. Therefore, if we want to stop thinking about the pink elephant, we may consider giving up the fight and allowing our desire to get rid of it, to fade away. Instead of trying to forcefully remove the elephant from our thoughts, we can simply let it dissolve. How does the backwards law work in practice? Specifically, how can we achieve what we want without striving for it? This video explores the backwards law and its paradox, along with the reasons for the continuous dissatisfaction in our lives and how to free ourselves from it by simply letting things unfold naturally. How can we achieve what we want without exerting effort to attain it? This seems like an unrealistic and irrational concept, especially in a society where we're accustomed to striving and exerting effort to achieve our goals. Willpower is often seen as a feasible way to attain what we desire in the external world. For example, if we want to become wealthy, measured by money, it often requires investing time and effort to earn enough money to be considered wealthy. And if we want to participate in a marathon, effort is unavoidable to build the necessary endurance to cover such a long distance. However, the backwards law not only applies to material achievements. If it does, it transcends those achievements. It's actually about achieving what we truly, genuinely desire. It's the shortcut to spiritual prosperity, something we all seek, to be a good person. But what is that? Is it wealth? Is it love? Is it friendship? Is it a long and healthy life? While these things may seem enticing, they often are just counterfeit copies of the real things. The goals we believe will lead us to happiness. However, as the backwards law has pointed out, the more we seek, the less likely we are to find. As we continue to pursue these external circumstances, we drift further away from what we truly desire. So what do we desire? Do we desire happiness? And if so, what is happiness? Is it something we attain through love and material wealth? According to Alan Watts, we often don't know exactly what we truly desire because they can't be clearly defined. Why don't you really know what you want? 2 reasons. You don't really know yourself. The second, you can't know yourself, because you never can. God is never an object of his own knowledge, just as a knife doesn't cut itself, fire doesn't burn itself, and light doesn't shine on itself. So, is it that what we're seeking is being obscured by our search for it? And is it that we're seeking something we can't define? But if that's the case, why do we continue to search? The human predicament might be a collective illusion, letting us know that obtaining external things or adjusting external circumstances, from material to money, to adjusting the body to the changes of the environment, essentially won't liberate us from a sense of lack. The backwards law teaches us to see the opposite. Dissatisfaction with the present makes us feel lacking. Each increase in dissatisfaction increases the feeling of suffering. Striving harder to change to attain satisfaction usually only adds to the feeling of dissatisfaction. Imagine setting a goal to become a millionaire and hoping that this will bring happiness to you. Setting goals like that not only demands significant effort to achieve satisfaction, it also makes you uncomfortable when you have to let go of that goal because you realize you never had it to begin with. Best-selling author Mark Manson has said, "Pursuing anything only magnifies the fact that you lack it." When you crave wealth, you often feel poor and unworthy, no matter how much money you earn. This shows that if you hold a monetary threshold for happiness, you'll feel even more lacking and miserable. However, if you significantly lower that threshold, you'll lose confidence because the goalposts have shifted closer to your position. This highlights the complexity of defining happiness and personal values, emphasizing the importance of inner contentment and self-acceptance. Despite this, we often still choose to set high standards, sometimes beyond our current reach. But in doing so, our sense of lack becomes deeper and more enduring. The human tendency to raise standards is like a way to alleviate the feeling of dissatisfaction, yet it also maintains and exacerbates that feeling by constantly pursuing new goals. This seems illogical but reflects the complexity of the human mind and their relentless desire for self-improvement and growth. And that's precisely the viewpoint of the German philosopher Arthur Schopenhauer. He concluded that we want what we want because, like everything else in the universe, we are expressions of the will to live, or simply the will. Schopenhauer believed that the will is an incessant, directionless, irrational striving, leading to a life of much suffering with no clear end. This reflects the profound and philosophical existentialism of humans in his invisible world. Therefore, we often want more than what we truly need, driven by the incessant feeling of lack. The mind feels lacking because it believes the present moment is not enough. It lacks something it cannot identify. So, we continue to evade what we have, falling into situations we believe are more interesting. This highlights the complexity and relentless desires of the human mind, as well as deep emotions and spiritual needs. However, when we get there, we ultimately realize that we're still stuck in a state of dissatisfaction, much like when we try to escape. Schopenhauer expressed his viewpoint. Thus, every intense pleasure is just an error and an illusion, for none of them can bring lasting satisfaction. According to him, the will is the reason we strive. The will is why we constantly seek. This emphasizes the complexity of human desires and the need to seek meaning in life. But in reality, following the will never brings satisfaction, because the will itself is the reason we can't attain what we desire. Schopenhauer believed that the only way to truly be content is to abandon the will, leading to a state of happiness, emptiness, free from striving. In other words, stop trying to attain it, and you'll naturally receive it. This underscores the power of acceptance and letting go in achieving contentment and happiness. He doesn't accumulate, yet he still possesses much. Though he seems solitary, he's surrounded by many. In his way of life, he's free, leisurely, and incurs no expense. He does nothing and scoffs at the wise and clever. Though everyone seeks happiness, he finds fulfillment in his imperfect life. This demonstrates the uniqueness and happiness found in accepting oneself and one's fate. Ending the quote. When you accept imperfection, you feel perfect. When you accept loneliness, you feel satisfied with yourself. Strive to be perfect, and you'll never attain it. Strive to avoid loneliness, and alone you'll find much difficulty. Embrace negative experiences as part of positive life. But fighting negative experiences will only make you more miserable. This emphasizes the importance of acceptance and assimilation with the difficult aspects of life. When you try to float on the surface, you'll sink. But when you try to sink, you'll float, as Alan Watts said. Similarly, when you try to sink into sleep, effort will keep you awake. Only when you stop trying can you doze off. And when you hold your breath, you lose it. But when you let it go, it continues. This demonstrates the power of letting go and accepting the natural course of life. When we stop racing for happiness, we discover happiness lies in appreciating the present. When we abandon the pursuit of wealth, we realize abundance in gratitude for what we have and see that as the true reward. Thus, by not craving what we desire, we truly achieve it. This is the lesson that the law of reverse seeks to convey. There's a simple Zen story that explains this paradoxical idea. Imagine a pond filled with muddy water, and you want to see its bottom. You could try stirring the water or clearing the clouds with your hand, but that only makes the water murkier. The only way to see the bottom of the pond is to let the water be calm and wait for the clouds to dissolve without doing anything. Only when the water becomes clear can you clearly see the bottom of the pond. This illustrates that sometimes doing nothing is the only way to achieve what we desire. In that story, the murky clouds represent our desires, thoughts, and dissatisfaction. When we try to stir the water and remove the clouds, we're holding on to the expectation of happiness. When we stop acting and let the clouds dissipate on their own, we truly see our own bottom of the pond, which is genuine satisfaction. So, pause in the chase, and you'll find yourself holding on to it. Understanding the law of reverse doesn't mean we shouldn't have goals, ambitions, or pursue change. There may be countless reasons why we need to change and shouldn't accept the current state. However, the law of reverse teaches us not to be fooled by the belief that pursuing happiness will bring happiness. Quite the opposite. With that awareness, we can frequently access that unwanted state of happiness. Because, as Alan Watts said, the mystery of life is not a problem to be solved but an experience to be lived. Thanks for watching.